Hi everyone, so this video is just for helping you set up VS Code for compiling C++ files. And before we start, make sure you have Visual Studio Code downloaded. You could just find this by googling VS Code or go to code.visualstudio.com and you could download VS Code for Windows, Mac, or Linux systems. So this is pretty versatile in that way and also many others. But let's just start with C++. While you're installing, I'm just going to make some new folders here just to show you how VS Code works. So for this, let's just say it's this C++ test. So let's pretend this is a file or folder where I usually put all my C++ code. And just to show some additional functionality, I'm going to make a subfolder. So let's say I have a file for coding files and, a folder for coding files and another folder for notes, like class notes. Alright, so our folder is going to be right here. And once you launch Visual Studio Code, it should give you this screen. And what we want to do is open a folder. And the folder we're going to open is the one we just created, C++_test. Alright, so once you open the folder, you could close this welcome page tab. And you'll see that you have the folder cpp_test up over here, and you can see all the subfolders within it. So we'll create a new file in coding files. So just right click on that subfolder and it'll show you options. Select new file and we'll just name our new file test.cpp. So once you type what kind of file type you're making, Visual Studio Code will automatically detect what kind of syntax it uses. So it even can do some auto-completion for you. Okay, I guess it doesn't, I don't remember what they will auto-complete, but they do. Alright, but before we start coding, you need to set up the compiler. So if you see all the way to the left, there's a bar with a bunch of icons, and if you go to the last one, hovering over it, it'll say extensions, and the short key for it is Control-Shift-X. So if you click on that, in the search bar, look for C++ and install the C++ for Visual Studio Code extension. You should also read the documentation, or at least this first page. And the most important thing to do is follow the instructions here to install the compiler. So if you're running, Windows or Windows using Ubuntu, follow these first two bullet points, either using MingW or Windows subsystem for Linux. And if you're using Mac, you could use Clang, and then I'm not sure about this last one. Cool. So after you set these up, it just opens to a link. So follow these and they'll give you pretty good instructions, including setting up the environment if you have Windows and you don't have Ubuntu in there. Alright, so this is probably the most difficult part you will encounter, so if you have questions, just reach out to the discussion forum, and I'm sure there'll be someone there that can help you. Alright, so let's say we have all of this set up already for the compiler. We could start coding. So we have our C++ file. Let me just write the most basic one. Okay. Okay, just writing a basic code so we could run and compile something. Yeah, let's just make it cout hello world. Oops. Alright, actually, I'm going to omit that semicolon. So, as you can see here, I'm missing a semicolon, so that won't compile properly. But if you see at the bottom here, it says there's an error. If you click on it, it'll tell you specifically where the error is and what it is. These are really just to catch simple problems. So you can easily fix some minor thing like a missing semicolon. which is pretty handy a lot of the times. So let's save this file, and after you save the file, you can finally compile it. So to begin this process, you open a terminal, which you could also have a short key for it, which is just Control-Shift backtick. But I just like opening it from the terminal. So let's see, if we see here, that's the file path from my desktop to cpp_test. But the file that we're running is in coding files, not cpp test. So in order to access the subfolder, we need to change directories to coding files. Alright, now we could compile it. Oh, actually, let me show you if it's not in the right place. Oops, okay. What? Oh no. I forgot the command for going to the right place. Okay, let me just trash this and reopen it. Okay, cool. So if we compile it without changing folders, so this is back in cpp test. Test.cpp. It won't compile, and this is because your file test.cpp isn't within cpp test. It's in the subfolder folder coding files. So you have to change directories to coding files, and then we can compile it. Alright, so once you compiled it, you'll see that they open a new file here, or created a new file here called a.out. This is the file that the computer is going to read, because the information is compiled into something a computer could actually parse through. And in order to run that, that is when we actually start running our code. So in order to run it, you use period, slash, and then the file name a.out. You could name it other things too, but this one's just automatically there, so I use it. Alright, you'll see here it outputted hello world, but as you can see I didn't put in a new line, so let's update the file with a new line. Cool. Once you update a file, you have to remember to save it, or else you'll be compiling the exact same thing again instead of the updated file. So saved, gotta compile it again, and then you can run the a.out file, and you'll get hello world with a new line. Alright, so this is pretty much how you could run C++ files and compile them using VSCode. And VSCode has a lot of other capabilities too. You can make things like HTML files, and I'm pretty sure that one has autofills. And you could also make things like markdown files just to make notes. So this is pretty useful, and if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to me or your professor or just the discussion board. Thanks for listening.